WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, together with someone from down under. Hey, Mikey, right?
Kia ora, Mikey Ball from Scapegrace. How's it going?
Very good. So I can't say down under, I have to say it with a Kiwi. Is that an insult? Is that a slur, or can I say that?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure we're still down under, I suppose.
Okay, yeah.
Just a big island.
All right. Good evening in Germany, 9 p.m. Good morning to New Zealand, 9 a.m. So that's very, very good. Ernie also says moin. That is the northern German way of saying hello to everyone. Heiko says we start at 9 o'clock here and 9 o'clock there. And Dirk over here says good evening or good morning in New Zealand. So, and Udo, who wrote a book about Jim McEwen from Bruichladdich, says good evening. Yeah, very, very, very nice. Introduce yourself, please.
Kia ora, well, I'm Mikey Ball. Now, unfortunately, I'm not the distiller at Scapegrace, but I do a lot of, I work mainly in the MPD department, specifically, actually, predominantly on the gins, but I've been working with Scapegrace for on and off on project work for probably 3.5, 4 years now. So I've developed the likes of the black gin and that kind of thing. So I've been part of the process, part of the story, which has been quite cool. But I've most recently in the last year been kind of taken on as a full-time MPD, new product development, creative role. So I work a lot in the spirits conceptualization piece, and then off the back of that, helping to try and make them the fun styles feasible. So yeah, as I said, unfortunately, I'm not Anthony, but what I've done this week specifically for this is I'm down to Christchurch, which is where our current distiller is, 4-hour drive for me each way, and sat and pulled as much information out of Anthony's head as I could. So yeah, I've got a few bits around process and kind of how we put everything together, and a little bit on the future.
Excellent. Thank you very much for all your effort, for all the time you invested for this live stream, and to be more than prepared for what we're going to do. So I sent out about 20 sets. We have, first of all, the Rise. We'll be drinking first. After that, we will together be drinking the Chorus. Number 3 we'll have is our, it's Timbre. Is that correctly pronounced?
Yep.
And last but not least, we have the Revenant, excuse me, Revenant here. We'll have to talk about that and what that is, all right? So that's the last one that we're going to talk about. Before we become involved in our tasting, we want to talk a little bit about the distillery, a little bit about the history, a little bit about this brand. My first question, if I may ask, and hopefully you can answer, Scapegrace. It's a unique name. Where did it come from, and why the Scapegrace?
Yeah, okay. There's quite a crazy story. I don't know if you guys had ever seen our products before, specifically from the gin side, but originally we were called Rogue Society. So long story short, Scapegrace is essentially a medieval term for a rogue as such. So someone who goes out there and does stuff that not necessarily anybody else is doing. But yeah, originally we're a rogue society, and a certain multinational brewery that was also producing some rums at the time from America decided that they didn't really want to share the name with us. So we launched in Europe.
That's a positive spin on that thing, yes.
Yeah. So we launched in Europe originally. Funnily enough, I was working in a bar in London, and I got given a bottle of Scapegrace, and I was like, that's Rogue Society. And that's kind of the long and short of where it's come from. But the original piece is that Rogue Society. I guess the brand itself, if you were to look at it when it was first started in 2014 by Mark and Dan, it was focused on this whole piece around being part of society, this cultural piece about drinking and doing things the right way, and working in that kind of a different way to everybody else, but producing a top end kind of London dry style, something that was understandable, but something that was not necessarily the same as what anybody else was doing. So yeah. And also at the time, gin wise, we were one of the first in New Zealand. I think there was 2 other brands producing gin in New Zealand. So we're quite young in comparison to now, where I think last year I judged something like 170 gins in New Zealand.
Wow.
So yeah, 5 years has gone, 7 to 8 years has gone pretty quickly. Yeah.
Sure does sound like it. Interesting. And then going from the gin to the whiskey, that was just a natural evolution, or was it the plan from the very beginning and gin was just something to do until the whiskey was done? What's that story of the balance of the effort and the money and the time and the energy involved in those two very unique products?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's probably a combination of both. I'd have to let Mark or Dan answer, but I think whiskey was something that was always kind of back of mind. It's always going to be one of those things to do it properly, like we want to, and as you'll see today, it was always going to be a big input, something that was going to take a lot of money to do it properly, similar to how we do the gin. So I think, because they stumbled upon a couple of pieces. One piece was kind of a few pieces from an old distillery, which ended up in the end meaning that we could work kind of outside of contractors and that kind of thing. I think that was the first stage in being like, we're going to build a distillery, which means now we're going to look at doing our own whiskey. So they had been putting it down. Obviously, we've just launched, but that liquid's been going for a while, as you would hope.
All right, so we're going to start with the first one, and then we can go to the video, and then we can go to the website and so on. But the first question is with Rise. How old are our whiskeys here?
So the Rise is, what have we got? Should we bring up this little slide piece, because I can talk to that?
Yes, we can, of course. Let's go there. Boom.
Just the second slide there.
Okay, you have to do the slides. I can.
I do that.
Yes.
Perfect. I like that.
Yeah, you have the control, all the power.
There we go. Can everybody see? Oh my gosh!
Almost. It's halfway there. There it is.
It's going crazy. There we go.
The Rise.
Cool. So the Rise itself is a 3-year-old. What we're tasting today, the Rise itself is a 5-year-old, so it's probably one of our oldest. So we're going to taste a 5-year-old in virgin French oak, a 3-year-old in virgin French oak, and then we're going to try something in Bulgarian too. So we've got a combination of different styles, but the Rise is our oldest in style. So there's some younger numbers, and you'll probably, when we talk through tasting notes, we'll be able to kind of see the difference as we go through. But yeah, I can dive into some around this if you'd like, or yeah,
please do.
Sweet. So the Rise itself, as you can see, it is a virgin French oak finish, which is quite different. It's very much comes from a kind of French point of view. So these are lightly charred. They're what we're doing is I guess a medium toast per se on a French oak cask. These are from Villar, and they kind of have that what I always describe as what you'd expect to see in some cognacs, which is that kind of sandy, quite dry, almost astringent style character. But when charred, you get a lot of that kind of caramelized, candied piece. Not necessarily any of those vanillins or anything as such, but it's quite a different style. And I guess that was very much, again, with the whole Scapegrace piece, it was very much an ethos that we kind of looked towards trying something different and focusing on a different format. As we said, this is aged in those virgin French oak casks for 5 years. Now the grain type is New Zealand Lorette. I'll kind of talk to process as we go through, but we use a local malted barley, local malting house called Gladfields, which is actually in Christchurch as well, which is where our current distillery is, and they produce probably most of New Zealand's malted barley, unless you're doing it yourself, which I think maybe one person is, but it's the best way to get that production. But they also do the smoking, which we'll see in the Revenant, and they also do peating as well. So there's a fair amount of wonderful local malt that comes out of there, and it means that we've got something close to the table, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's the baseline of the product itself. The The bottles we pull per batch, 4,548, so relatively light. And then I guess probably in the process, did you guys want me to? Oh, how about with this one? I'll talk through the full process and we can kind of go from there. If that makes sense.
Please
if anybody
do.
has any questions, please reach out. But
right in the
we can
chat.
kind of.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, we can kind of talk from that original. So we've just kind of talked about the source, which is Gladfield's malt. This one specifically is that French Lorette. Our matches, and this is the same for the kind of range as we're a new distillery, we're still kind of building on this format. So we've got essentially one recipe in different finishes, and we'll kind of look to build and play with that as we go. We've done a few variations, but the reality is that's kind of the focus. So for one batch, we use 375 kilos of barley, malted barley. This is all fully roller milled. In the mash itself, it's a 3-hour conversion, so relatively light. It's not a huge conversion, and then we drain that after 45 minutes, and that's at a relatively low temperature. It's about 65 degrees. The second water that we roll in is at 80 degrees, and that sits at around about an hour pre-draining too. We don't run a third currently, purely because our distillery just doesn't have the functionality to do that, and the volume of water that we have to heat to actually do that third water is pretty insane. However, at the new distillery, when we watch the video, you'll be able to see that we'll actually be able to feasibly do that. And then pre-fermentation, we use through exchanges, we cool everything down to around about 26 degrees. That takes on the whole, for that kind of volume, which is around about 1,200 liters, we're looking at about 6 to 7 hours max, depending on the temperature of New Zealand, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
From that point, we're rolling into
fermentation. You're on the North Island or the South Island?
Oh, that's a very good question. So the new distillery will be in Cromwell, so Central Otago, which you'll see a few pictures of in the video. But the current distillery is in a place called Christchurch. So I guess smack bang in the middle on the east coast of the South Island.
Yes.
Yeah. So down south. But the original brand was actually started in Auckland. Yeah. But we've always distilled in Christchurch. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So for the fermentation piece, obviously we're pitching brand new yeast, no matter what. So we don't really run like a mother or anything like that as such. It'll be something that we maybe look at down the line, but again, we want to keep stuff as tight as possible. We're using a natural dried yeast from Lafort in France. The main reason is this has a high temperature tolerance, which means we can get a lot more conversion, a lot better yield, and it really helps there. So once this is pitched in, we agitate and recirculate for around about an hour. And then we're rolling a 72-hour open top fermentation. So anything longer than that, we start to get a little bit too much funk. Anything shorter, and it doesn't quite make it to the ABV that we'd like. A lot of other breweries and a lot of other distilleries actually run it longer, but if you guys are familiar with a lot of Scotch, we really wanted to focus on kind of what they do to make sure we retain a lot of that flavor profile, because at the end of the day, this fermentation is so key to holding on to profile. So as I
are
said,
those stainless steel open tanks, or are they wooden open tanks?
Stainless steel, yeah.
Okay,
yeah, stainless tanks at the moment, yeah. So those batches are about 1,200 liters at that point, and they sit around about, after that 72 hours, between 8 and 8.5, which we've found kind of our tidy spot.
Yep.
And then we roll into distillation. So our low wines, it's an 8-hour process. And the main reason for that is we use low pressure steam to heat instead of high pressure steam. We found in the past, or at least Anthony's found in the past, that with high pressure steam, you can quite quickly get burning or caramelization of the base spirit, and often that can be tasted in the final product. So this helps negate that. And then we load that. We load that as a single run. So to give you an idea, off the back end of our low wines, we're running basically a 550 to 600 liter yield, and that comes out about 24 to 26%. Gotcha. We let this sit for 24 to 48 hours just to kind of help bind. We find that it really helps tighten everything up. And then from there, we're running the spirits still. So usually with heads and tails added, we're getting about 600 liters of low wines going in. And again, that's another 6 to 8 hour run for that hearts and tails and heads cut. And the heart comes out at around about 200 liters. So pretty tight, but it means that we get a lot more texture, a lot more drive. And especially when we're working with virgin casks, it means that we're able to extract a lot more of that flavor. So it's kind of where our heart's at. It comes out around about 63%. And we're pulling 250 liters once we've proofed it up a little bit. But we want to. Sorry, it comes out at about 70, and we're proofing it down to 63 for cask. Apologies. So
don't
it comes
worry,
out at
don't
70.
worry. It's just like, I'm not 100% sure about that one though.
No, do it.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's basically the process. And then I guess what we're tasting today and what we're talking about is essentially the finishes. So we'll kind of talk about the finishes as we go through. We've just covered a little bit on the French oak, but I guess enough of me rambling on. We should probably give something a taste, eh?
Or smell, first of all.
Or a smell,
Barry says here, dark caramel in my nose, and then in his mouth there's a creamy dark chocolate. The rye's nose, greenwood, cinnamon, spice rack, custard, mint, an interesting nose. Dick, I totally agree.
Yeah, I really like this kind of. There's almost like a greenwood's a perfect piece, and I also get kind of crispy apple too, often in that back piece to it. But lots of that kind of dark kind of raw cacao. Quite acidic up front, a little bit of vegetal character when we get to the palate, but aroma wise, really clean and tidy. Sometimes it's got this little bit of, I find, might just be a rural thing, but I find there's a little bit of kind of horsehair going on too, which is quite cool.
A little bit of the farmyard funk, huh?
That's it.
Okay, so 46% non-chill, filtered, natural color, exactly the way we want our whiskeys. So congratulations. Thank you very much.
Correct. Yeah, choice. Slancha.
Yeah, Slancha. If anyone else has any tasting or nosing notes, feel free to write them down in the chat here, either in German or in English. I don't care. I can translate. So.
Yeah, cool. So my personal piece around this is I find it's quite like, as I said, green apple. It's got that spice. It's got that almost kind of stewed cake spice, but I find it almost malic acidic. So it is that kind of citrusy, appley piece as well.
Right. Yeah. So here, the rye's the taste. A little bit of a cinnamon roll with vanilla sauce. Overall, atypical compared to a Scotch, but very, very tasty. I do get a little bit of that cinnamon moment, a little bit of that citrus moment, a lot of that apple moment, a little bit of tartness in there as well. Interesting. Very nice. And I do get a caramel with a chocolate. Nice.
That's it. Cool. I really like the finish on this as well. Quite waxy. And it's, I always find this like almost cider-like finish.
Yeah,
which is again that kind of acidity coming through. Yeah.
Okay. Very
awesome.
Nice. So I'm going to share the website here in Germany. Because the importer, the name is Spritzhöcker, and we have the Scapegrace single malt Scotch whiskey Rise 1, the limited edition, and we're paying at the moment about €60.99. But I will put in the chat a couple times this evening the possibility to actually have 11% off. And if you order in Germany, €77.77 is where they have their free postage and handling. So, and they always send within here 24 hours. So, all right, that's an interesting way of doing that. Barry says the oak is very present, but very, very good. And by the way, Barry actually sent me a picture. Some of my fans do this every once in a while, and I love it. He sent me a picture of his setup tonight. So here's the screen. Here's his bottles. He has in the back here a can more that he's actually doing as his calibration whiskey, and he can't wait, he said, to take part in our whiskey tasting this evening. The first time he's been here, and it's in English. So thank you, Barry.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, if anyone else wants to send a picture, feel free. You know where to send it to. WhiskyJason@gmail.com or WhatsApp. Feel free to do that. Very, very nice. 1 second. One more time here. There's much more of a sweetness the second time, but that oakiness does kick in, and there really is like a cinnamon roll vibe to this. It's nice. I like, and I love the way you do the glass the way you should, right? Coat all the sides, get a little bit more of that wonderful aroma there. Well done, well done.
That's yeah. I find it gets quite textural as it kind of goes on as well. Maybe jump back on it, especially once we've tried a few. Definitely finish them if you'd like, but it's definitely worth trying the virgin, the French oaks against each other for sure.
Okay. So everyone had 3 CLs, so they have enough to do more than 1 sip. It's no problem there. That's very good. Should we watch the video now? Before we move to the next one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very, very nice. So we're going to watch a little video here. Do you need to explain what's going to happen, or is everything self-explanatory?
I'll be able to kind of talk over it a little bit, will I?
Yes, we can. All right. Very good. So we'll go over here. I'll go to my screen here, and we'll watch the whole thing here.
Cool. So just as we jump in, guys, this is kind of a walkthrough of our new distillery that we are currently building. As I said, we currently distill in Christchurch, but this is a bit of a walkthrough. So first piece here is rolling into the kind of food and beverage element. So you don't necessarily need to see all of this, but it gives you an idea. And then the still room here as well. So we've got we've got the big John door on the left-hand side, which is actually our gin still, and then the wines on the side there too. So that back building that you can see right at the back there is actually the first part of the barrel room, which we're kind of coming up to now, and you can kind of see the extent of it.
Wow.
So we're situated down where the mist is. There is actually the Cromwell Valley, so Lake Dunstan. And we overlook Lake Dunstan. The other side, as you might have heard of, the other side there is the Pisa Range Hills. And in the back side of that, the valley, you might have heard of a New Zealand whiskey called Cadrona, and that's the Cadrona Valley. So relatively well situated in central Otago. But yeah, if you could almost draw a line from us through to Cadrona, straight across the lake, straight through the hills.
Okay. That is a massively long barrel house, is what I'm going to call it. A storage facility there. How many barrels will you be able to store? Is it thousands?
Yes. Yeah. So, and the initial development is the fact that space will be able to extend further out too. So
I was going to say, you can start smaller and each year you can build on, right?
Yeah, I mean, to give you guys an idea, right now, like that 200-liter yield means we can essentially make 1 barrel of whiskey per run. We'll be looking at making minimum 10 times that once we're in the new distillery, or the feasibility and the means to do so. So it's going to be a pretty massive leap, and also it means off the back of that we can do a lot more exciting things, because it's not it's not the bread and butter. So that's a pretty cool piece. But choice. Should we jump into our second number? Should we jump into the chorus?
Number 2. Now, why the name Rise before we move over to the next one? It's a limited release. It's number 1, but why not? I don't know. Upward motion. Why Rise?
I'm going to have to come back to you on that one. I am 100% still unsure of exactly where the names come from. There's definitely something in the boxes, but Mark's a wonderful marketing man, and there's definitely some epic stories that are based around the names themselves for sure.
Okay, no problem.
Cool. So we're jumping on to the chorus.
Yeah, exactly. The chorus now, please. Exactly. So let's put this so that we can actually see the bottle in a second when I put this up here. Look at that. Now we can actually see what we're tasting. So, yay. So a friend of mine says, just popping in to say hi. Unfortunately, I will have to do the tasting later. Cheers, everyone. And Dirk from Expedition Whiskey has already done his tasting. And he says, once again, green, a wood, less cinnamon, lemon, green pears, spice rack again. It looks fresher and more sparkling. So tell us a little bit about this one, if you may.
Yeah, of course. So this
pop up your slide again.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So this is our this is the Chorus 2. So funnily enough, the 3-year-old in style. So a little bit more kind of I guess aggressive, I would say. It's a little bit more upfront. But I also find it's got a little bit more. It's got a bit more texture and profile. Yeah. So as we said, 3 years old, virgin French oak. It's the same Lorette, so very much the same whiskey you tried to start with. But this is giving you an idea of what it's like at 3 years. So you see the massive difference between that original that we tried and this. This is big citrus blossom, poached pears. I find chestnuts and texture. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you guys are finding on that aroma. I just get chocolate, olive oil, spice coming through again.
I don't think I've ever heard the word or said the word olive oil with a whiskey, but I agree. I do. A very, very fine olive oil. Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
My it's probably my taste. My personal tasting notes are always very different to everybody else's in the team. That's probably my background in cocktail bars. So yeah. I'm very much picking different elements as such, or different ways to explain them. So yeah, I'm glad you can smell it as well.
I love it. That's exactly what I want. Is I want a little bit of a, oh look, it's different. It's like an olive oil. Oh yeah, gotcha. So it says here something about citrus blossoms, a little bit of poached pears, and a very elegant spice moment there. So that's the official tasting notes on the German website.
Cool. Yeah. So and then if we jump into the palate, if we jump into a little taste, if we haven't already,
let's go for it. Cheers.
Kind of
that got a little bit more of a punch there, doesn't it?
Yeah, so a little bit more of that, heat because it's younger.
Yep.
But also find it has a little bit more kind of, personally, I find it has a little bit more creaminess.
Yeah.
And a little bit more of that kind of luxurious texture. And then that spice coming back through that we sort of start with, allspice specifically for me, and then that kind of that grassy green note as well.
Yeah. Very interesting. Do you sometimes put a touch of water in your whiskeys?
Absolutely. That one, a little bit of water actually creamies this one up quite nicely too. So yeah.
All right, very, very nice. I'm going to share the other screen here very briefly, the German website here, so we can see. Once again, all the products today are can be bought at Splithöcker. This is the Scapegrace single malt whiskey Chorus number 2. So apparently there was number 1, but we only have number 2 in Germany. The limited edition, this time we're at €50.99. And as I said, we can actually have a rebate of 11% if you'd like. So you just need to use our nice little code, which is tasting 11. One word. I'll put that in the chat again here, so you can, when you order something, you can actually get 11% off. Limited to the next 2 days, I think. Now, if you're watching this video in the year 2024, sorry, but the next couple of days, you never. I have like 3,500 videos online of whiskey tastings, and every once in a while, somebody will from the 2016 write and say, "But Jason, the price is not right. Today it's this." It's like, yes, that was the price in 2016, not the price today in 2023. And so it's just like, okay, sometimes the internet does not forget. Yeah. So tasting 1-1. And Barry just writes down, yes, more creamy and more spicy. lecker is delicious. So well done.
Awesome.
Well done.
Cool.
So I
Just
have
to
a feeling
explain,
you like the chorus better than you do the rise. Could
me
that be?
personally,
Yeah, you personally.
or did you pick it?
Yeah, I figure.
Yeah,
I'm almost going in that direction with you as well, by the way. So we often rank whiskeys when we do tasting. So yeah.
I put it like this. For me, I'm a personally from my cocktail background. I'm very much focused on texture and structure and that kind of thing. So the part with the chorus really intrigues me is the fact that it has this high ABV. It is quite raw, but it still has a lot of that underlying texture. Whereas I find the rise is perfect for something like a highball style. So it's definitely like much more mixable. It's a cocktail style. It could work as a cocktail style as well. But it's just crazy to see that it's essentially the same thing, but it's just at that different age. So amazing to see what those barrels do to that final finished product. Yeah. Gotcha. The last piece to call, obviously, we did mention just then the Roman numerals. So the Rise 1, the Chorus 2, the Revenant 3, and the Timbre 4. So that's purely just down to the releases.
Okay, so that was the first release, the second release, the third release. That shows my ignorance. Thank you very much for not pointing it out. Bland, very, very. It was well done there. Yay, good job, Mikey.
No, it's a really good point. We should probably talk about it more. So,
So the first thought I was like, okay, this has to be the second release, but it's the second overall release, and that's why we're tasting that in this order as well. Yeah, gotcha.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool. Very good. All right, so Thomas says the chorus is in front of the rise. I would totally agree with you. Write down any other tasting notes, any other questions you might have there, and we will respond to that in the best possible way we can. Excellent, excellent. Very, very nice. For 50 euros, I do. Okay, chorus. I'm still in this place. My soul died with its color. I know I am home. Is that a poem or a lyric on the back of the bottle here?
It is, yeah. So very much like the Scapegrace pieces, that every one of these is related to a piece in history. So I think they have the exact quotes on the back of the boxes, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, something I should scrub up on a little bit and have more information for you. But what I will do, Jason, is I'll send some details through on exactly how that is. And if you wanted to share that with everybody, that'd be really cool.
I will do my very best. So I didn't even recognize there was a quote in the first bottle. So let's see what that says. It says here, number 1, rise. And so it begins. Although in truth, the start was years before now. Okay, good. Makes sense as well. Yes.
Yeah. Relative to the Scapegrace brand, I guess, is kind of the focus. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, I mean, your bottle design is really, really nice. I mean, good heavy bottle on bottom here. You got the X. You have, even from behind, you can see the X here, which I kind of really like. It's kind of hidden behind there. So it's a very, very high quality bottle. You can really grip it. It's nice and pour. Absolutely no problem. Yeah, well done there as well.
Awesome. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I guess I didn't actually much to do with the bottle design piece, but they very much wanted to kind of make sure it's still set in line with the gins as well. The gin is if you've seen the bottles of the gin, it's quite a similar process and similar shape. But yeah, I think it came out really cool, and just the way we can put the labels on and the boxing especially around it means that we can definitely disclose a little bit more information on it too.
Yeah. Very, very nice. What I can very quickly do is go to your website here and present your, is that correct here? No, here we go. So here we can see the bottle. That's your gin bottle, right?
Yeah.
And then we can place the new bottle on top of that.
That's it, yeah. So, yeah, I guess derivative, the original,
well, right?
Yeah. So the original, the original Geneva style of bottle is very much this. So essentially, gin was, I guess, known as a medicine back then. We could go way deep into the gin history, but it's very much what the profile and what the structure of the bottle was based around. So that kind of vintage bottle that was pulled up pulled up from under the ground. Actually, funnily enough, where the new distillery is based is in what's known as kind of New Zealand's biggest gold rush country, and there was multiple gin bottles like that pulled from Cromwell and that type of area. So some pretty cool bits that tie in with that shape of bottle, not just the origins of Amsterdam.
That ties in with this bottle as well. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, very good. All the products today are 46%. All the products are non-chilled filtered, no color added, and all the products are available in Germany. So well done. Good.
Perfect. So, cool. Now we're gonna mix it up a little bit. After I've just told you what the way the releases are, I'm still gonna make you all wait for the Revenant.
We go to the 4 now.
yeah. So we're gonna go to the 4, which is Timbre. And it's a bit of a fun one.
Before you talk about that, very briefly, the distribution. Any chances? Lawrence is over in Southern California. Any chances of it hitting the States anytime soon?
Yes. Funnily enough, I'm actually whereabouts is Lawrence? Are you?
He is in Southern California.
Yeah. So we're distributed, as far as I'm aware, through RNDC, and they're Arizona and through LA as well. So there's definitely ways of getting it. But let me follow up. I'm actually I also work for a tonic brand called East Imperial. I'm over there for Arizona Cocktail Week. And doing some other Scapegrace bits in LA. So, Lawrence, maybe I can bring something over for you if you'd like.
All right. Very good. Very good. So, if we go over to your website once again here, you will see that it is available in the US, at least your gin products. I'm not sure about your whiskey products. And you have to go over here to the online shop, and you can see here that we have the black, the gold, and the classic here. But none of the whiskey at the moment. So, all right. So we'll see what happens. But I love the offer of you bringing something over there. So Lawrence, you can always contact Mickey at the distillery. Yeah. So I'll put the website here in the chat, and you can just go there to the contact site and then reference our live stream tonight. Very, very good.
That'd be awesome.
So now we have the Bulgarian oak, right? And not the virgin oak.
Yeah, so we're going to jump onto the Bulgarian oak.
Is it virgin Bulgarian oak?
Yeah, virgin Bulgarian oak, treated in a very similar way to the French virgin oak. So medium char on it too. But quite different, as we'll experience in a second. I guess probably one thing to note is, so as we said, same Lorette, so same New Zealand grain. This one's a 3-year-old as well, so has that similar kind of heat at this point. It's a much lower batch. We only have 2,270 bottles in circulation, but it's got a little bit more.
We're sold out in Europe, by the way, and this is one of the very few last bottles that were actually at the importer. They gave me this bottle with the only under the premises that I would do a live stream with you. So that was the only condition. It said, Jason, we can sell you all 4, but you need to do a live stream. So I was like, you sold me at do a live stream for me, please.
Do it like, yeah, there you go. They know too much.
they know me. Yeah, it's like, be the first person in Europe to do a live stream with the distillery from New Zealand. Here, please, accept, take my money.
Choice. There you go. So I'm assuming you guys have never seen anything in Bulgarian oak, so I probably should cover a little bit of why. Actually, you could throw that slide up if you would like there, Jason, and we can kind of talk to it.
Thank you for the reminding me. Yeah.
But you've probably never seen you haven't maybe seen much in Bulgarian oak. And that's mainly because it's used in the wine industry more so than anything else. So
high quality casks,
yeah, very, very good quality casks, usually used in like the sherry and port industry. And it was something, well, not just that, but a lot of European and kind of Eastern and even into some of the Asian Asian continents are still producing different barrels for the likes of port and sherry and that kind of thing. So the greater unknowns, but still, as you said, very, very high quality. So that was where our inspiration came from. These sherry finishes that were often kind of split barrels of different staves, whether it was virgin oak and American style oaks, this whole idea of like, actually, well, if we can get that, then we can also get that. So Anthony had been doing a lot of research, even pre kind of doing elements for Scapegrace, and he had this sauce for Bulgarian oak that he really wanted to try, and we tasted it, and straight off the bat we were like, well, I mean, it has that intrigue, it has that kind of rogue Scapegrace feel to it, and that's kind of where it came from. So that gives you a little bit of insight into where and why. We'll definitely keep playing around with it as well. Obviously, it's not a core SKU, but yeah, we're definitely keen to keep this kind of there. We've got a few that are down for a long period of time to kind of just see how they play out in our New Zealand climate.
Brendan over there in Killowen in Northern Ireland has used almost everything once, so very good. I'm sure he's used the Bulgarian oak casks more than once, and he just did a collaboration with Tasmanian whiskey with Irish whiskey together. So I mean, the guy is a crazy spirit alchemist, is what I'm going to call him. All right.
Yes, love that. Cool.
Yeah.
Choice. So let's jump in.
Here, more vanilla, more creamy, milk chocolate, more fruity, less spicy. Yeah, Timbre knows greenwood again, freshly cut, more barrel, baked apple. Get more of the apple as well here. A little bit of the custard. Very, very nice. And I'll just a shout out to Top Shelf Dustin. If you haven't subscribed to his channel in the States, please do. He's doing some good stuff over there.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, I mean that aroma, as you said, it's quite juicy up front, but it also has that kind of savory note for me. So I find it like that kind of cream pears and porridge. That oak comes through really dry, and it's more that coffee and potentially a little bit of allspice, but not necessarily that kind of big egg spice for me. Also a bit of flint, which is quite cool.
Okay. Yeah. Now, will you be redoing a separate batch one day, or is this a one-off thing and then you'll have up to 3,522 different products?
It's a very good question. I'm 100% sure on the cask strategy at the moment. I would say you've got the major pieces that you will definitely see for a long period of time. So the Rise, the Chorus, and the Revenant will always kind of, that will be our key SKUs as far as I'm aware.
Gotcha.
And then we'll look to add with different styles of wood and that type of thing. So we've got a couple of other finishes on the go. But obviously with the Revenant being, with this being that kind of 3-year-old or 5-year-old style and a 3-year-old as well. Well, this is the 3-year-old, sorry, but the 5-year-old style as well. We'll kind of look at that and see how it plays out in the cask. Yeah, I guess it's a really crazy one. We're still very young in New Zealand. We've talked to other distillers in the industry in New Zealand, and some of them are producing very Scotch style whiskey, and they're hitting that 8-year mark and being like, I'm ready to pull this. It doesn't need to go any further. We have that. We have a climate down here that we're still trying to work out. So yeah,
good. I'm going to show just the German website here real quick here from unser Sprithöker. That's our Scapegrace single malt whiskey, Timbre number 4, limited edition. It was 99 euros and sold out almost immediately. So this is something that we cannot buy at the moment. The other ones, the Rise, the Chorus, and the Revenant, we can buy, so no problem there. Very nice. Now let's talk very briefly about the I think it's in the very infancy, the New Zealand Whiskey Association. There are actually people trying to get rules together and finally figure out what is New Zealand single malt, what is New Zealand whiskey. Is Scapegrace also part of that conversation?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you have to be. So yeah, it's been relatively tumultuous in the fact that there's a really hard piece in New Zealand where we haven't necessarily been as traditional as probably Scotland or a lot of the rest of the world. And there's also already currently history, right? So our New Zealand industry already existed some wonderful whiskies that were produced directly from worts or beer that was produced by someone else. So a big piece was obviously the way we produce is grain all the way through, but that wasn't necessarily feasible for a lot of people. So a big argument was,
okay, so
it
you distill on grain.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So you don't have a clear wort. You actually go with the grain all the way into the wash still. Interesting. Great. By the way, many people in Germany do it exactly the same way.
Yeah. So, but the big piece here is a lot of distilleries, and the same happens through the US as well, other places in the world too. But a lot of people will buy in a wort, then low wine to turn into their low wines and go from there. So, which it's hard because multiple distilleries in New Zealand are also on breweries. So it's kind of like, well, do they produce it themselves, or is it something like that? So yeah, it is a hard piece, but yeah, a lot of the legislation's been put in place, or is in the process of being put in place, just so that we can make sure that what we're doing is great and it's put together. And there's some massive heads, some really awesome people that have become a huge part of it as well. People who have huge distilling knowledge all the way through, even into the rum category globally. So that's been really cool. The likes of Matty Johns and a few other major distillers from around the world who have now since moved themselves to New Zealand and making some pretty delicious liquids as well. So there's a plethora of knowledge, and I guess it just helps us to keep forwarding the industry here. But it's a hard one because a lot of people want to be old. A lot of people want to be old school. They want to only do things a certain way, and then other people want to play. So it's very much trying to find a flat median, and everywhere else in the world it was already done, right? So you're working backwards.
Well, America still hasn't approved their single malt regulations yet, so you're not that far behind. It should happen in 2023 though. So
yeah. But no, I think from what I've heard, the general consensus is it's in a pretty good place. And I think it's one of those situations. Often you're in a room and everybody's arguing the same point, but in a completely different way. And everybody wants New Zealand whiskey to succeed in some way, shape, or form. But there needs to be something that defines it as New Zealand whiskey. So yeah,
gotcha. Okay, interesting. Here, Timbre, Chorus, Rise. The same thing here for Thomas, but here, the Expedition Whiskey likes the Rise better. So far, you did a fairly good job here of having us taste them in that order. So I really, really like that. Thank you.
Nice. No worries.
Did a good job, Mikey, sorry. All right. Very nice. So in the pipeline, you also wanted to mention maybe something that's going to happen in the future, or is that a little bit still under wraps?
I mean, I guess we kind of covered it already, which is more so the fact that
your new distillery,
the expansion, the building of the new distillery means that we're going to have a lot more freedom to play around with stuff. So, I mean, as you'd expect, most whiskey distilleries, we're constantly on the lookout for different casks and that type of thing that we can start to look at implementing. Obviously, being so young, we're really focused on these core styles that we can, refine. We're also completely aware that we're about to move a distillery down by the end of the year. We're moving into the new distillery and essentially producing our liquid, even with the same recipe, in a completely different area of New Zealand. So there's going to be differentials. There's going to be pieces that don't necessarily taste exactly the same, purely down to process. So I guess the first big piece is just going to be getting that all nailed and locked in, and then from there we're going to be able to play a little bit more. But just reaching out and making connections. We've definitely got some stuff down in some other barrels already, without telling you too much, which is quite fun.
At the moment, I'm missing the typical sherries. I'm missing the typical New Zealand red wines that I love to drink. There will hopefully be things like that as well, I assume.
Yeah, there is. Yep, there's stuff like that on the pipe. But actually, the Pinot Noir piece is something that we maybe I'm not 100% sure whether there's one down, but if we haven't, we've definitely kind of danced around it because a lot of people have already done it and played around with it. So it's definitely once we're sure of exactly what our profile is, it'll be better for us to pick a specific vineyard off the back of that, I think, as well. Yeah. Pinot Noir is an aggressive wine when it comes to finishes as well, so it can quite easily throw things out in the mix. But there's definitely some fortified wine casks down, and a few other bits around that. So yeah.
Look, my kryptonite. Is there smoke? Yes. Chocolate, apple, coffee. A coffee, by the way, is more my kryptonite than smoke, but that's fine. My daily flight has a different. There are I would say at least a dozen or two different whiskey distilleries at the moment. New Zealand, you have once a year. Is it Christchurch or is it Auckland where you have the whiskey fair? Is it Whiskey Live New Zealand or what? Christchurch, yeah. So Mark Gillespie is there. Dramfest. It's called Dramfest. Yeah, exactly. So Mark Gillespie was there right before the lockdown the last time, and was he here? Was he there this year, or is he going to be there next year? So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. No, I know Dave Broom ended up getting locked down in New Zealand.
Yeah, I do remember that story as well. It was like, other people made it out within the last 2 or 3 days, but somehow Dave, I don't know what happened, but he wanted to stay a little bit longer, and he stayed much longer.
I think I read a story. I don't know whether it's true, but I think he brought his family for the first time as well for a holiday, and and basically we rolled into lockdown, so it was pretty terrible timing.
6 to 9 months, I think, is what he was there, or something like that, right?
Yeah. He kept pretty quiet though while he was here.
He probably wrote a new book. Come on.
I would have thought so. You'd be worried if he did it.
Yeah, exactly. If he didn't write a book, I'd be worried. That's true. All right. So tell me about this one. I'll put this. Yep. So talk to me, please.
So as we talked about with the Gladfields malt, what they do is similar to the peating process. They manuka smoke the Lorette. So they manuka smoke it in the malting process. So it's similar to peating. And with this, we get this kind of big, I guess, charry forest floor smoke. I don't know if you guys know tea tree. I guess that. Do you know the flavor? If you know the flavor of manuka, manuka is a native New Zealand.
We have manuka honey in Germany. I've had, but I don't think I've had anything else from manuka here.
Yeah, so the manuka in your honey is very much, as you can see in the picture, that's manuka around the bottle, but it's the floral element of it. So manuka itself is like tea tree, it's eucalyptic, it's got this beautiful kind of menthol drive. Obviously, it's very good for you, but in New Zealand, we love to smoke stuff with manuka. I'm personally still on the fence of whether we should be smoking things with it, but in this regard, it works quite well. So it's our kind of New Zealand answer to peating per se. So this is what's called a grade 2, so very similar to how the peating process works as well. And then from there, obviously, we're producing this in exactly the same way as the rest. So outside of that manuka smoking, you've essentially got the rise here, but with the smoke on it is kind of the basis of what the style is.
Interesting. So it isn't so much older whiskey; it's more than 3 years.
No, this is a 3-year-old.
Okay, because the rise was a little bit older. You said at the beginning, right?
Yeah. So the rise is the 5-year-old, and then everything else we've tried 3. Yeah.
Okay, good. No problem. Thank you. So also, once again, I'm going to share my screen here from the German website so that we also see this. We have here our Scapegrace single malt. What are you trying to express with the Revenant here? What does that mean for you? I don't know if the Germans understand this.
I'm not 100% sure on exactly the terminology, but again, it relates to the story on the back of the case there. The Revenant probably relates to something being that big kind of bossy smokiness, I guess.
Yeah. So after all the time, I still feel your careless warmth. The smoke lingers on. Okay. Good. So Dirk says here we have a little bit of sweet coffee, cream, subtle smoke, pepper. Again at the end, very, very nice. So it is a different smoke. It's not something I would. It's like that's not Scotland. Where am I? This is weird. So I would have went for America first, so like a single malt from America, because they do some funky stuff there with their instead of using peat as well. So interesting. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, I find it's got this wonderful kind of acidity to the smoke as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has also heat, almost as much heat as the second one had.
Yeah, I think it really the smoke itself kind of really showcases that vegetal warmth and spice too. I find it's got this kind of weird, this quite acidic gooseberry piece to it as well. But you've still got that creaminess and that little bit of texture. But along with that, you've got this kind of numbing herbal menthol style that comes through in that mid palate, I find. So
yeah. Okay, hey Mikey, very, very good stuff, delicious, and my first New Zealand whiskey. Dirk says, in my opinion, you shouldn't mature the virgin oak cask for more than 5 years. The rise has enough wood. More would be maybe even too much. So it's actually a thought there. Are you going to be trying maybe, I'm going to say first fill bourbon and then finish in maybe the French oak instead of full maturation in that French or Bulgarian oak?
Maybe.
Okay.
There's definitely thought process around that, but potentially, I think probably noted on the head. There's going to be a lot more, as we said, a lot more of this young style whiskey coming out of New Zealand on the whole, because our climate, once whiskey is made from scratch in the right way, I feel, and in the right barrel specifically, we're getting a lot more flavor profile out of these younger whiskeys than we probably initially expected. We're looking at, our general climate is 7 to 10 degrees heavier, warmer than Scotland on the whole. So if you look at it realistically, that's almost 50% warmer. So you could look at cutting the likes of a 16-year-old down to 8 potentially. I mean, there's all of this thought process, and obviously it comes down to how you build the whiskey and how you put it together and to start with. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chance that our younger whiskeys are going to do really well in that profile.
So, it didn't look right here. 1 second. Let's go back here, because it just gave you an 1,111% discount. So I made a mistake here. 1 second. So let's go back here to our little script, and we'll just copy this and paste this here. First of all, we have here for the people who are now participating and all viewers here, with the tasting code tasting11, you will get an 11% rebate on discount on all the products in the shop, not just the whiskeys, but everything else as well. So I can highly recommend that you use our nice little discount code here for 11% discount on all articles in the shop using tasting11. And the shop is up here. So splithookah.de is where we need to go. All right. So for Barry, the wood is very balanced in your whiskeys. He loves that. This reminds me of Mitchell and 2 stacks from Ireland with the smoke and the peat, just to make the whiskey more complex, but not overwhelm it. I totally agree, Tina. And here we have the ranking, Timbre, Revenant, Chorus, and Rise. I didn't like the Rise that much and thought, oh, I hope the rest is better. It was. Thank you. Mikey, great stuff. And also here, congratulations for extremely tasty whiskeys with their own profile. Very good. And I think I agree with that. This is not something we're going to easily confuse with a Speyside single malt from Scotland. This is something which is bolder and which is more just positively different. And I like that. You expressed it in a different way. How did you express a little bit the ethos of your company?
Rogue.
Yeah, rogue, exactly. A little bit off, not the wide path, not the normal way. A little bit going rogue, a little bit different. Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess it's the idea with rogue is to kind of follow in traditions, and it's pretty much my personal ethos and where I've come from as a bartender as well, is that idea of like taking tradition and using it to the best of your ability to create something different. So yeah, learn what not to do and what to do at the same time.
All right. So my daily flight is going to maybe buy one bottle. Which one should he, as a first-time taster, then buy? And by the way, my daily flight, I have a little bit left. You can still buy a sample set from me if you want. But what would you recommend as the first one?
I mean, I would say if you're looking at something definitively New Zealand, probably the Revenant. Otherwise, if you're looking for something as a kind of a sit-down dram, I would say the Chorus is a pretty cool way to go as well.
Yeah, I would go for the Chorus as well. If I had to buy one bottle, I would put the Chorus first.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Very, very special, very tasty. Thanks a lot. Here, Timbre is my favorite. It is available at a shop, but not at Splithoek anymore. So Barry placed his order already. Very, very nice. Also, Tina, thanks you very much for the lineup. She really liked the Revenant, the Timbre, the Chorus, and the Rise. So, yay. Awesome. Very nice, very nice. So, any last questions we want to ask Mikey here before we leave? So I thought that was an excellent, excellent tasting and a really interesting overview. And I'm very excited to hear the plans for the new distillery. So there's a lot going on down there in New Zealand. And for you, the day just started. For me, I'm going to go to bed very soon. So I just love this on the other side of the world, literally moment. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess my little my morning whiskey cap, and you guys are having a cheeky little nightcap.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. So you said you were in London once, right? So you've been to Europe.
Yeah. So I lived in London for 3 years. So I worked in cocktail bars in London. Yeah, Milk and Honey, and then followed that by a place called Dandelion on the South Bank. So
excellent.
Yeah, very much what I come from. So I'm lucky enough to work in this kind of creative environment now through distillation, which is very cool.
Yeah. Excellent. And are there any plans for the distillery to maybe attend a whiskey show or whiskey fair over here in Europe? Or is that a little bit too far in the future?
Well, I wouldn't say it's too far away. We've obviously we're building new distributors and that type of thing. And obviously the whiskey is still relatively new if you think about it. It was only kind of launched in that 8 months ago now, 7 months ago, or in New Zealand anyway. So I think is it just this week been Whiskey Live, like a couple of days ago? Is that right, in London?
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a stand there. So you'll definitely see a lot more of us. Okay.
That's great to hear. Very, very good. So at the moment, I don't see any questions here from the chat. The prices here are also very affordable, accessible, with the 50 to 60 Timbre, the 99, but it was sold out due to the Bulgarian Oak and the limited supply. But here we have Kia ora. Is that correct?
Kia ora. Yeah.
Kia ora?
Yeah.
All right.
So it's
Maori
for hi. Yeah.
Oh, okay, exactly. So very, very good. So great, interesting and tasty choices of whiskey. Barry, this is his order here. The Chorus is second, Timbre is first. Okay, very good. He's also not a peaty type of smoky person like me, so that's the problem there. But otherwise, very, very nice. All right, so if anyone wants to take a look at your website, I'll also post this one last time here, and you can go over there and find out a little bit about the story. and about the history. And if you need any more information, please contact me. I will pass the question on if I can't answer it to Mikey. Now, if Mikey cannot answer it, he'll pass it on to Anthony. And if Anthony can't answer it, it's unanswerable.
It doesn't exist.
It does, yes, exactly. That answer does not exist. So, and I want to thank Mikey for his time. Thank you very much for participating today. And I'm excited about what's going to happen in the future, especially with your products and all the other products coming out of New Zealand. The last words belong to you. What would you like to say?
Oh, man, thank you guys so much for having me. I mean, yeah, thanks for spending the evening coming to learn about some little distillery out of New Zealand, I guess, is probably the big piece. And yeah, much gratitude and stoked that everybody's seeing this all in a different light and understanding the profiles, and you kind of see where we're going with it. So yeah, you're all part of the story with us as well, which is really quite cool. And yeah, you're the first European tasting, which is quite cool. So yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah,
and thanks so much for guiding us through this very, very nice tasting. WhiskyJason, all the best. See you soon. Bye bye.